Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with new numbers on what Donald Trump's tariffs could do to Ontario and to Windsor. The province's Financial Accountability Office has released a study on the trade war. CBC's Lane Harrison has the details.
Ontario could see hundreds of thousands of job losses this decade as a result of President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods, according to a new report from the Financial Accountability Office, laying out the scale of potential impacts.
In 2024, almost 1.4 million Ontarians worked in export-related positions. U.S. export-related jobs accounted for roughly 900,000 of those positions, about 1 in every 9 jobs in the province.
The report paints a grim picture of employment loss in Ontario, with the potential of 68,000 job losses this year, a figure that could nearly double in 2026, mostly in the manufacturing sector. The report considered U.S. and Canadian trade actions as of April 17th and says Windsor would be hardest hit, with the potential for 3,900 fewer jobs next year.
There is this sense of nervousness. There is this, I wouldn't say impending doom by any stretch, but there is this what if.
He says the city knows it's vulnerable and has been preparing.
Things that we have been working on and thinking through is what does a relief package begin to look like from the newly elected federal and provincial governments.
Province-wide, the report says Ontario could see a modest recession in 2025, but not everyone is buying it.
I'm going to disagree with that. Let's see what happens. We're continuing to see investment in our province. Say the tariffs will hurt? Absolutely they'll hurt, but I have confidence that we'll work things out with the United States, with President Trump. We have a newly elected government federally.
But the opposition says the report should be a wake-up call.
The fact that the Premier is not acknowledging that these numbers are real, that this tariff crisis is real, and hoping that this storm passes, doesn't instill a lot of confidence for those manufacturers across Ontario and those small businesses.
The FAO's report comes the day after U.S. President Donald Trump walked back some of his tariffs, softening the cost to automakers who are importing parts. It's a move he says is meant to help the automakers and give them time to bring production stateside. Now, the FAO obviously wasn't able to include this new development in its report, but its economists say that those changes would only offer short-term relief. The long-term outlook would remain the same. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Industry leaders continue to push back against the harm of auto tariffs by presenting a united front and by being loud about how hits to Canada and Canadian workers are also major hits to the United States.
The best thing you can do to save the future of those people and of your plants and of your business is to talk about it.
One very vocal advocate for the industry has been the president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association, and he wants others to join him. He spoke to business leaders from across the province at an event at the University of Windsor. His message, be vocal and present the numbers.
The things that are being proposed and enforced by the U.S. federal government hurts the math, but not just for Windsor, but for Detroit. Not just for this area, Michigan, Ontario, also Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and down to Texas. And so if you're uniquely positioned in the math, that you live by it and you make it, and that in that math you can demonstrate how if we get hurt here, they get hurt right over there, those voices need to be heard and become part of the public record.
That message struck a chord with folks in the room who say the lack of predictability or trust makes the situation very tough. But working together is important.
Don't shut up. Don't stop talking about what's going on. Be loud and clear about how you're feeling. Be vocal. We're strong. We're a united front, and we're presenting that regardless of how we're being attacked by what's going on.
For the Canadian Association of Mold Makers, the biggest message to get across is how vital mold making is.
Windsor, Essex is the largest centralized hub of mold makers in the world. Ontario houses 4 of the 5 world's largest mold makers, and not paying attention to that or acknowledging that or recognizing that is detrimental because business needs to be done. Molds have to be bought from Ontario right now, and it's not something that can just be picked up and done overnight anywhere else.
All the while, Trump says he's softening the blow of auto tariffs by offering automakers some credits and by not layering levies on top of one another. But Volpe calls it an insult.
This is an abuser who said, I'm not going to hit you today. There isn't any relief unless they're at zero.
Colette Kennedy is with us now for our first look at weather. Colette, it's gray out right now, but we did get to enjoy some sunshine earlier on.
Yes, that was nice to have, but just trying to get, acclimated to the big change in temperatures, right? From yesterday's highs to today, looking at the daytime highs here, we're talking about a change of between 12 and almost 20 degrees in some cases. Like, look at Sarnia, just 7, Windsor, 14, and now what do we have? Yes, the gray skies, Katarina just mentioned, with some of the clouds coming in and rain showers on the way. So rain showers developing tonight. They'll linger into tomorrow with some thunderstorms in there too. But eventually tomorrow afternoon, those temperatures are going to pop up again too.
Okay, thanks, Colette. Up next, the sexual assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players has heard more testimony. The court also saw text and video from the night of the alleged assaults nearly 7 years ago. Katie Nicholson has more from London, Ontario.
The night that ties 5 former teammates together now coming into clearer focus. Former World Junior hockey players Michael McLeod, Cal Foote, Dylan Dubé, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart are all charged with sexually assaulting a then 20-year-old woman known as EM in June of 2018. They have all pleaded not guilty. London Police Detective Tiffany Waquet presented surveillance videos from Jack's Bar, where Michael McLeod could be seen dancing with EM, and of the two entering the Delta Hotel, where they had sex in room 209. Key evidence in the case, the texts that followed. At 2:10, McLeod texted some players, "Who wants to be in a 3-way? Quick, 209, Mikey." Someone using Carter Hart's phone responded, "I'm in." At 2:15, another text from McLeod to another player, inviting him to his room using a slang term for oral sex. Court also watched 2 videos of EM taken from McLeod's phone, one at 3:25 a.m. in which he asks, "You okay with this?" She responds, "I'm okay." And again at 4:26 a.m. in which she asks if she's being filmed, and a male voice is heard saying, "It was all consensual?" "You're so paranoid. Holy," she replies. "I enjoyed it. It was fine. It was all consensual. I'm so sober, that's why I can't do this right now."
In Canadian law, consent has to be contemporaneous with the sexual activity.
And this law professor says people can change their minds. The existence of the video, she says, raises questions about consent.
The Crown might say, why was this video made? Especially after the sexual activity. Was there a concern about the lack of consent? Was this an attempt to sort of make up for the lack of consent at the time of the sexual activity?
It's not all down to text and videos. Court is about to start hearing from other players who were there that night at the bar and at the hotel. And there will be group chats entered into evidence as some of the players discussed what happened that night and the aftermath. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, London, Ontario.
A Windsor police officer accused of making harassing phone calls to a colleague pleaded guilty in court this morning. Constable Joshua Smith was in court on a harassment charge and one for indecent communications. This stems from incidents from September 2023. According to an agreed statement of facts, Smith repeatedly phoned a woman who also worked for the police service over a 2-week period. During the calls, Smith wouldn't speak. He would just moan and breathe heavily. In their initial statements, police said that the incidents happened while Smith was off duty. The woman recorded some of the calls and reported them to police. Smith has been suspended with pay since the charges were laid, and he is expected back in court in June. Windsor City Council is hitting the brakes on a program that inspected rentals near post-secondary schools. Chris Ensing talks us through the reasoning for the halt and the pushback from advocates.
The majority of rental units in neighborhoods near the university and the college that are signed up for the city's licensing program failed their first inspection. Building officials and people with the fire department say they found substantial issues in some of these units. And now the city is putting the program on pause, even as advocates say that it could save lives. Here's why. 2 years ago, Windsor launched a pilot program to get rental units proactively inspected in Ward 1 and Ward 2. It required landlords with fewer than 5 units get each one inspected each year. But landlords quickly launched a lawsuit against the city. That challenge lasted nearly the entire length of this pilot program before it was thrown out by the court. However, the court said the city couldn't fine landlords for not having a license while the challenge was active, which essentially made the program voluntary. That dropped expected applications from 3,000 to 660. Here's the data on those inspections. 71% failed the first inspection. 13% were illegal units built without a permit. 10% had a major safety risk, and 28% did not have a working smoke or carbon monoxide alarm. Mike Cardinal used to have student rentals in the West End. He wants a program in place because he says it could save lives.
Andrew would be alive with us today, not dead as a second-year, 19-year-old university student.
Andrew Kreinbrink rented a home with his roommates in the West End that caught fire in 2016. He died in that fire despite attempts to try to get him out of his room. There was no working fire alarm on the main floor of the home. His family has pushed for this type of licensing program before, and the fire department says it's still a problem.
To be quite frank, the number of fatalities that we've had over the last several years, the majority of them are in buildings with non-working smoke alarms.
Landlords have told council the program is more red tape and costs will be passed on to renters.
Tenants can call 311, call the building department. They can certainly seek if there's something wrong with it, but you shouldn't have a blanket bureaucracy of licensing everybody.
City Council paused the program so that staff can reimagine what this would look like across the city. Now, that could be something where these licenses span multiple years instead of an annual renewal, or a system that sees 5-star ratings for landlords renting out units. City staff say that report could come back as early as this year. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
U.S. President Donald Trump says Prime Minister Carney will visit the White House within the next week. Trump also remarked about the criticism he faced from both Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre during the campaign.
I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, "Let's make a deal." You know, he was running for office. They both hated Trump, and it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least that won. I actually think the Conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. Couldn't have been nicer, and I congratulated him. But he's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly, within the next week or less.
In other news, Windsor native Devin Verasuk was at home with family and friends when his phone rang on Tuesday with a life-changing call. It was the Hamilton Tiger Cats informing him that he was being selected with the 2nd overall pick in the 2025 CFL draft. CBC spoke to him earlier today about his reaction and his love of the game.
Devin.
How you doing?
Coach Monson.
How you doing?
Good, man. Good to talk to you again. Welcome to Hamilton.
I know.
Fired up, man. Fired up to have you.
It all started when I was a kid. And honestly, it was just my dad put me in from, I believe it was grade 4. I don't know how old you are in grade 4, maybe 10, 11 years old. But yeah, I was just thrown into football and fell in love with it and never left. I definitely did not think I was going to be picked that high. I kind of thought anywhere from rounds 1 to 3 from what my agent was saying. Hamilton did give me the best kind of like vibes, I guess you could say, when I had my interview with them. I was not expecting to be picked that high, but I'm definitely not mad about it at all. I was at home with my family, close friends, and my girlfriend, and we're all just sitting there watching, and next thing you know, my phone rings, and my heart sank. I was like, no way. And I picked it up. I was a little nervous, and I just blacked out. I don't even know. I was just so excited.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the globe, a police car chase in Australia ended with a standoff on a narrow jetty, and then this happened. And now here is another angle of the red Jeep driving off the jetty and into the water, narrowly missing the police boat. The driver climbed on top of the sinking vehicle for a bit, and then he made a second try at escaping before police apprehended him. The vehicle is reported to have been involved in an earlier traffic incident. A live look outside there. When we come back, the Premier accuses some judges of overruling the government. Stay with us. Welcome back. Premier Doug Ford criticized some judges today for being soft on crime, suggesting maybe they should be elected like in the United States. His latest comments has political opponents comparing him to Donald Trump. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more.
The Premier went to Peel Police headquarters for an announcement on bringing in tougher bail requirements, part of upcoming legislation. It turned into a rant against judges.
The system is broken, and there's a lot of terrible, terrible bleeding heart judges out there.
He's expressed similar frustrations before, today going much further.
And once these judges get into their position, they have this sense of entitlement. That's what drives me crazy. We were democratically elected as a government. Last time I checked, there hasn't been any judges elected. Maybe that's the problem. We should do what the U.S. does. Let's start electing our judges.
Part of what set him off, a judge's ruling to put a hold on his government's plan to remove bike lanes. An injunction was granted while the judge makes a final decision on whether it's constitutional to take them out.
When you're fighting Trump to sound like Trump when it comes to respecting the courts and due process, doesn't do Ontarians any good, doesn't do Canadians any good.
When the Premier starts talking like this, it's dangerous. And it shows that he thinks that this Americanization of Ontario, including in our courts, that is something he likes. I think he's offside with where Canadians are at right now.
The judiciary are not there to further our agenda. They're independent. Their job is to impose the rule of law and to interpret the rule of law.
Ford also floated another idea to get more judges who are tough on crime.
These judges that are bleeding hearts, I can't wait till they retire. Matter of fact, I'll pay him to retire earlier. I'll pay you out for 2, 3, 4 years. Just get out of the system. Simple as that.
The Criminal Lawyers Association dismissing the ideas.
It's political rhetoric, to summarize it, in my view. I'm sure the Premier knows that these are not realistic options that are constitutionally available.
The upcoming bill will allow the appointment of judges to be fast-tracked. As for that injunction on bike lanes, Ford says his government will be appealing the judge's decision. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
In Vancouver, feelings of grief and disbelief continue following the deadly Lapu Lapu Festival attack. And there are other emotions emerging, anger and frustration. Chris Reyes has more.
Let me walk you through this memorial, one of many in the city and really across the country, because, you know, the flowers keep arriving, the candles are burning, and all of this gives you a real sense of how this city is grieving and how the essence of the Filipino community permeates all of that. You know, some examples, you see a lot of Philippine flags here. You see crosses, you see rosaries. Some people have made the effort to build altars where they've left pictures of the victims. We've also witnessed that there is a bit of a daily pilgrimage happening here. We've seen people stop and stare and cry. Some don't know the victims and others are painfully connected to the tragedy. One woman that I met here was in tears. She works at a hospital and she knows a victim in critical condition. All of this grieving is happening as this city grapples with how this could have happened and how it could be prevented in the future. We heard from Vancouver Mayor Ken Sim an impassioned call to action.
I think we're all tired, and look, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but I'm just speaking from the heart. Not as mayor, but as a resident of Vancouver, as a citizen, as a father, as a family member, as a neighbor, as a friend. Like, I look at the list here, like, just, you know, I've seen in the news, you know, Richard, Lynn, Katie, 3 individuals, a family of 4, left an orphan son. How many more reports do we have to do to come up for a reason why their family is absolutely devastated? We need action. We already know what the answer is.
Among other things, Sim is calling for mandatory care for those with severe mental health issues. He said the urgency of dealing with that problem was made clear by this tragedy. Kaiji Lo, the suspect in this case, is in custody facing numerous murder charges. He was under the care of a mental health team, but was on extended leave from hospital at the time of the attack. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Vancouver.
Stay with us. We'll have Colette with weather right after the break. Colette Kennedy is with us now for another look at weather. Colette, we are enjoying these warmer temperatures, and with that, we're also enjoying longer days, which is my personal favorite part of this time of year.
Yes, for me too. I feel more productive.
Yes.
You know, in the evenings, I actually get a few things done because there's some daylight to keep me going, keep the energy going. And of course, hey, spring showers bring what? Mayflowers, right? We're heading into May tomorrow, the first day, and just looking at where those daylight hours will be. Here's your sunrise tomorrow, almost to 6:30, not quite there. Sunset just after 8:30, and so we are over 14 hours of daylight now. Look at those current temperatures, 13 degrees, single digit for not only Chatham-Kent there, but Sarnia and Goderich. Goderich at only 5 degrees. The winds not nearly like what they were yesterday as strong, but in certain areas, that's why we have some of these cooler temperatures where you've got the winds coming in there off the lake at this time of year really having that impact. So cloudiness, yes, we've been getting those clouds increasing. Showers are on the way, so initially kind of some lighter stuff, and then this will fill in as it continues to track towards southwestern Ontario. So we'll see some of these rounds isolated, then some heavier pockets, a bit of a break there tomorrow morning, but it won't be over with. There'll be more to come. And as it pushes through, yes, the risk that we may have a few thunderstorms in there. I don't actually anticipate severe weather. It's a slight risk of there being any stronger storms. I think really the dynamics aren't there, certainly not there the way that they were yesterday. Here we are, 4 p.m., still some isolated showers back to the west that have to work their way through. So even Friday night into Friday morning, some sprinkles still around, and then there's going to be another wave to come. So we'll kind of take you through that here in the 5-day forecast. But just looking from this first wave going through anywhere from 15, we'll say 15 roughly, it's 12 for Windsor, to just over maybe 20 millimeters of rain, but coming kind of in batches like that, right? Overnight temperatures, 8 to 9 degrees for our overnight low, so certainly mild in that sense. And now let's show you where we're going. Now, something important about this high, yes, very mild tomorrow, but through much of the day, the winds are still going to be from the east, so we'll probably linger in the teens in the afternoon. And then once they shift to the southwest, it gets breezy, but that will then pop the temperature up later in the afternoon. 19 on Friday, still some of those showers. Hey, the weekend looking pretty good, and into Monday with some milder temperatures and some sunshine.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Good night.